House lawmakers haggling their way through the hurdles, finally passing the debt ceiling deal, and now it heads to the Senate. President Biden says it's good news for the American people and the American economy, but is it good news for all Americans? Democrats are now facing some pretty fierce criticism within their own party. So we turn to Gene Sperling, senior advisor to the president, also coordinator for the American Rescue Plan. Gene, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's get right to it, all right? Progressive Democrats like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC, I mean, they're slamming this bill and the concessions that were made with regard to work requirements, student debt repayments, and climate change. Let's take a listen.
They're trying to come in and cut SNAP. They're trying to come in and cut environmental protections. They're trying to ram through an oil pipeline through a community that does not want it.
I have a lot of concerns about this agreement.
Deficit reduction cannot just be about cutting programs that working families, the children, the sick, the elderly, and the poor depend upon. I cannot vote for this bill.
So, Gene, how do you respond to that criticism, and how do you and the president make peace with these concessions? I mean, you're giving up benefits for some of the neediest Americans.
Well, first of all, and first and foremost, and I think you're probably hearing this from us as well as from Republicans like Speaker McCarthy, we're in divided government. So what you heard are a lot of things that we would probably agree with, that what we would prefer not have had in an ideal bill that we would have passed if it was the president and just an all-Democratic Congress. It is not the bill that Speaker McCarthy would have passed if they controlled the White House and the Senate. When you have divided government and bipartisan, you need bipartisan compromise. So the question is, was this an honorable compromise? Was this ultimately a win for the country? And I think the answer is yes. And I guess in terms of support or criticism from some of our progressive friends, a couple of points I'd make. One, this passed yesterday in the House of Representatives, 165 to 46 among Democrats. 165 to 46, that means virtually 4 times more Democrats voted for it than against it. So the proof is in the pudding. The overwhelming majority feel this was a good agreement. And I think part of it was that, yes, the Republicans did get some of their goals, but look what the president did. He really did protect his key investments in the infrastructure bill, in the historic climate change bill, in the historic investment in American semiconductors bills. All of that was completely protected. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, completely protected. And on the issue involving work requirements for SNAP, yes, they did get some adjustments that we would have preferred not been in there, no doubt about it. But we also made sure that there was a new exemption for veterans, for people who are homeless, for people who've been in foster care. And so when you look on the whole, there actually will be more people not hurt by work requirements, though there will be some reforms that we would have preferred to keep off. But again, it really comes down to, in divided government, was this a solid bipartisan compromise that should get the vote support of both parties? And look, again, the proof's in the pudding. What you saw in the House yesterday was that you saw a strong majority of both Democrats and Republicans decide this was an honorable compromise, and one we at the White House, and I think the overwhelmingly number of Democrats, felt did meet progressive values in a world where compromise was essential.
But if we look back to student loan debt relief, I mean, it was one of Biden's major campaign promises. So aren't these concessions breaking that very promise to Americans?
No, it's very important we understand. The president has 2 major college debt relief bills. One of them is one where he provides debt relief of $10,000 to students and $20,000 if you've been on Pell Grants. The second was a program that makes sure you only have to pay a relatively small amount of your income every year so that you never have crushing student loan debts. Those are the two giant major proposals. One of those is being challenged in court. How much did the president give on that? Not one dime, not one penny. What the president also did was that during this pandemic, he put a pause on student loans. And we had said that this was going to end as we got into the fall of this year. And so we agreed to legislate what we'd already committed to do. So I really think if you look overall, the president stood firm and did not let them get one penny from the two major programs that will help tens of millions of student loans get 10 or 20,000 of debt relief, or be able to have essentially finance their loans so they never have to face crushing debt paying back their loans for college.
So, Gene, let me ask you about the NAACP. It wants to abolish the debt ceiling. It actually put out a statement saying, while the original intent of the debt ceiling was to solve a practical challenge of paying the nation's bills during World War I, it's become a weapon used by conservative extremists to hold the lives and livelihoods of Black America and countless others hostage. You know, Democrats had a chance to abolish the debt limit last year, Gene. Should they have done that? And should we just get rid of it?
Well, you know, I'm not going to get to what exactly the policy solution is right now. Our focus today is on passing this bipartisan compromise, making sure we don't face a crushing default that would have a devastating effect on jobs and unemployment and those who are most hard-pressed in our economy. But I do think we would agree that we need to make sure that the debt limit is not used as an extortionary tactic. It is okay to have, like you saw here, budget agreements that happen at the same time. But if a side says, you do my way, or we're going to put our economy in default for the first time, that is not acceptable. And I think we should be, I think the president did everything he could in this context to make clear he's not negotiating on the debt limit. We're not subjecting ourselves to extortion on the debt limit. But I think we felt in the end that we came to an honorable compromise, an honorable bipartisan compromise on budget issues that we would have had to face and deal with Republicans anyways. But I do have sympathy.
Let me ask you one more question.
I do have sympathy for them in saying maybe we should all step back and look and see how we can make sure that nobody, Democrat or Republican, ever use the debt limit anymore, or ever to ever say my way, or I put the economy into distress and devastation. I don't think any American of any side, any party, progressive, conservative, should ever do that. And I think it is worth us all thinking about how we can enforce that basic norm, you know, among our policymakers.
Well, that does lead me to, you know, your background. I mean, you served in the Clinton and Obama administration, so this is not your first debt ceiling rodeo here. How did you get put into this position where you have to negotiate over the full faith and credit of the U.S. again? I mean, what kind of precedent does that set? Well,
I think what happened in 2011 was so scary and harmful, and I think it had a terrible impact because people really thought we were on the doorstep of default. And you saw maybe 1 million jobs lost over the next year or two due to that uncertainty. You saw the stock market go down 17%. You saw consumer confidence plummet. Small businesses were hurt. I do think this time around, the president made very clear that to constantly ask for assertion from all the parties that default was not on the table, that he was willing to engage in an honorable budget compromise. So I think that what we faced this time is not like 2011, and assuming the Senate will now pass it, I think we will avoid, even though it's closer to the line than any of us would have liked, I think we've done this in a way that has not had the kind of devastating impacts that we saw in 2011. And again, I share the sentiment that we should all be thinking how, policy-wise or just in our basic norms, to communicate that no one should use the threat of default as a way of saying my way or the highway on any policy priority.
Gene Sperling, appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.